Tape www.suividecolosénégal.com. À École au Sénégal, c'est facile, tu n'as qu'à te connecter. Tape École au Sénégal, les leçons sont beaucoup plus détaillées.
So, we're still on currencies, okay? We're going to do a little exercise. This section talks about the symbols, and I'm going to write it here, right here. Oh, yeah. Next section talks about the symbols. What are these, the symbols, the currencies and the symbols? That such a way that if you see them, you should be able to identify them. They're the most used currencies. Okay, they're the most used currencies. Okay, and so this one becomes what? This will become the dollar sign. This is the dollar sign. This is the dollar sign. Okay, it's the dollar sign. This becomes a pound, sterling pounds. Remember the pound sign. Of course, we know the pound sign. This becomes the euro sign. Okay, this becomes the Swedish franc. Be careful, be careful with the sign. You see, it's a big F, one big line, there's a medium, and then the other line, it's the Swedish franc. The Swedish franc. Okay, the Swedish franc. What about this one? What would that be, this one? This is the Japanese yen. This is a Japanese yen. Okay, this has a form like an R, so that tells you it's an Indian rupee. The rupee has double E. Okay, and so this will become the Chinese yuan. Okay, Chinese yuan. And then this is the Russian ruble. Russian ruble. That's ruble. Okay, Russian ruble. Then this one is the Turkish lira. See, small t. So that stands for Turkish. Turkish lira. And then this is the won. Remember? Won. Which is the Korean won. Or let me put it better even. Korean won. It's a Korean won. Of course, then you could use even ours, in Africa, ours, which is just the F, which stands for the franc CFA, which is used often by Africa or African French countries. So these are the most used currencies or symbols that you should actually know. Okay, this is the franc CFA, the XOFR that you should know, that is currently used, The symbol, please take note, it's just F, it's just a capital F, okay, for Africa. And then you have the Russian ruble, the Russian ruble. Be careful between ruble and ruby. Those are two different things, Russian ruble. And then the Turkish, you see that it's a small t, but that the cut it is slant. The cuts are slant. They're not straight, but they're slant. Turkish lira, you see? And then, of course, you have the Korean won, which is the North Korea, and the South Korea, Korean won, which is, with two slots, two lines. Okay, and it's a capital W. You have the Chinese yen. You see the difference? Chinese yen has one slant, one cut, whereas the Japanese has two. That's what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference, so please be careful. The Japanese has two lines, and the Chinese has just one line on the Y. So one is yen, and one is yuan. You have yuan and you have yen. You have ruble and you have ruby. Okay, and the ruby is an R. You see the form of an R, and then with two signs. Of course, you see the Swedish franc. It's a capital F, and then you have a slant again underneath. Whereas the French is just like, the French, it's just this. That's it. But then the Swedish has another slant underneath. Okay, so that's the Swedish franc. You just see the sign, and of course you have the pound, you have the euro, and then you have the dollar. And the dollar, it doesn't matter. It's just that you have to identify if it's a US dollar, if it's a Liberian dollar, if it's CAD. Canada is CAD, America is USA, Liberia is I think it's LA or LD. So it just depends on which country is using what. Namibia is ND, Namibian dollars, ND, and so they have different abbreviations for the dollar. And of course, the pound would be that, even in for Jamaica. And so you just have to let us know if it's Jamaican dollars or is it a British pound, or in a euro as well. Even though it's for France, there are some countries around that would use the euro. And so these are some of the symbols that you need to know. Isn't that just simple? So that if you see it, you should be able to identify it and should be able to use them correctly. Okay, so you would know which country uses what. Okay, I hope that it helps you, and I hope that we've learned something today about the currencies and about their symbols and about countries using some of those currencies. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you.
www.suividecolosenegal.com